All right. Hey now, everyone. This is Rob here from Rob's School of Music, and we are blessed with the legendary Mr. Andy Timmons rocking with us today
Mhm.
for the interview podcast. So we're just gonna, jump in and ask a bunch of questions, and then, feel free to tell stories and jump on tangents and have a great time.
Well, good to see you again, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, we've survived thus far. So
We are still here. These are shit. It's about to kill myself here trying to straighten my seat up.
Good.
Yeah, we survived. This is our bonus tracks. We're hanging in there.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the first question I'm going to ask is it's the one I start off with everyone. We are
Sure.
a music school, and even though right now gigs aren't an option, back when they were,
Yeah.
we would have all of our students perform. Particularly,
Sure.
it hurts this time of year because in the town where our school is located, it's on a main street, and they have a big street fair in the fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would book a full day of performances, and the number one thing that the students would deal with is stage fright, anxiety.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So you have rocked many a stage around the world. Do you have
Amen.
any tips?
Well, it's something, I recall quite vividly my first time on stage with a band in front of an audience was my own 8th grade graduation dance back in 1976. I was, Halpern grade school in Evansville, Indiana. And so I was performing for the first time on stage with a band in front of kids that I've gone to school with for 8 years. So it was, I'm a pretty shy kid, especially at that time in my life. Right. So, thrown into the deep end, but it was, it's just one of those things. With that particular gig, I was so nervous. I had my back turned to the crowd most of the time, fiddling with my amplifier and anything to not look at the people. I was, focusing on the drummer or the bass player. And it was a power trio, very exposed. We were doing like Rush and Nugent and Foghat and, nothing that they wanted to hear. Probably they would have been happier with disco or whatever. Billy, Don't Be a Hero. Anyway, so from there, but fortunately for me, that drummer, Glenn Gore, played the next 7 years together. So from the age of whatever you are, when 8th grade, 13, I've never not been in a band. So, earlier on, I was obviously the young kid. I was playing, not bad at the age of 13, enough to be playing that kind of material. And, and they were crafty enough to get gigs. So I was doing it on a regular basis. So it was literally just, the act of doing it and doing it and doing it and learning over time how to kind of channel that nervousness, which is a good nervous because it means you care, it means you want to do well. You don't want to let yourself down. You don't want to let your friends down or the audience, obviously, and certainly the band members. You want to do well for everybody that's within earshot. Right. So that never goes away. So I still get stage fright. I still have anxiousness. I still want to do well. I still really care that much about it. But obviously the more you do it, the more you can kind of channel that into a positive energy, hopefully. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it ever goes away. Maybe for some people it does. I always think about it. Maybe I said this last time, there was this great quote that I've heard attributed to Andre Segovia, the great maestro of the classical guitar, that had kind of a cocky, arrogant student come to him saying, "Maestro, I never get nervous when I play." He says, "Well, maybe one day when you have talent, you will." So I may be paraphrasing. It could have been somebody else, but I did hear that before the internet, so it may be true. Who knows? But so that, it's not a bad thing. But so, and even though we're in a time now where, obviously we can't be performing with our friends as much as we like or in front of people, but there's certainly, there's circumstances like this. Anybody can get on their social media and live stream, do that. Why not get yourself out there, even if it's just a handful of friends that might tune in. That to me is honestly the most nervous I get is when it's people I know really well or family. Those are the toughest crowds. Like there was one clinic I did in Canada. I was on tour with Olivia Newton-John. It was one of the side gigs I did for many years. I worked with Olivia for about 15 years. We had a night off in Canada, and sometimes when I'd have a day off, I'd book a clinic for Ibanez Guitars or Mesa Boogie. And so it was a Mesa Boogie clinic. So Olivia and the whole band came out to my clinic. you know, and she knows how I play, and she knows she's heard my music, but she'd never seen me, you know, play Groove or Die or Super 70s or something like that, you know. So, but I was so nervous because it's not only because you know, myself and Olivia and the whole band, we're very close. They are like family. So it's like your family coming to see you, only they're like some of the greatest ears in the business, you know. So it's gigs like those that really kind of, you know, put you to the test of like, okay, can I do well in this kind of, you know, at least in my own mind, you know, that high pressure situation. But a lot of times those high pressure situations are an inside job. You can create a lot of that yourself, and sometimes maybe detrimentally so. But for me, the key was, you know, maybe it's the 10,000 hour rule, like the Malcolm Gladwell thing, where just the more you do, the Beatles got so great because they were gigging, you know, 6 nights a week, 8 and 10 hours a night in Hamburg, right? Where there was just incredible amount of experience. So by the time they had hit America in, you know, February of 64, man, they were on fire. They were unstoppable. They were well-oiled. They've been gigging steady for a few years, and you know, there's proof in the pudding right there. So the more experience you can get, but like I say, now we're all kind of socially distant, and but the internet's a wonderful thing in that regard, man. Put yourself out there and get that experience. That's the best thing.
Sure, you know that the 10,000 hour thing. That's
Yeah,
reference that because people will come in. You know, I'm sure you've seen it too. They say, "Well, I want to learn how to play guitar. How long?
yeah.
How long until I'm I'm still working on it." Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, you never get to where you want to go, but that's the beauty. I mean, and the 10,000 hour rule. I don't reference that to be off putting in that. No, well, you're not going to be any good until 10,000 hours, because that's certainly not true. Because the beauty of that is that maybe, you know, if you can use that as a loose guidepost of like, well, doctors and lawyers and people that are great at what, you know, athletes, people that do what they do that are really great at it, they have probably put in, you know, a reasonable amount of hours. But it doesn't mean you can't put in a few weeks and be cool enough to go do a gig. That means it should never keep you from that. And that's how you learn, by putting yourself out there, even when you're not that great. There's a great Dave Grohl speech somewhere when he did the Austin, maybe it was South by Southwest, and he was the keynote speaker. And he was basically the premise behind the speech was like, you know, you get in a room with a bunch of guys and you suck. you suck together, and you just like really suck it. But you keep doing it, you know, and that's the beauty. And there's the people in the band that are better than you and not quite as good. And, you know, everybody's helping each other. And it's that growth along the way. Then it doesn't end. I've still got buddies that come over and we're like, oh man, we suck. Yeah, I know we suck. Let's try this, you know. And it keeps going. And that's the key, though, is to, you know, to learn to recognize that, okay, I just got to enjoy the suck and enjoy not being where you want to be, but enjoy the process of, you know, the more you do it. And when you recognize those little moments of improvement, you know, when you, something your teacher has shown you, or something you've picked off a record or whatever it is, and it starts to connect and it starts to come through in your normal flow of playing. Those are the real encouraging things, but that only comes with consistent, you know, pursuance, if that's the right word, you know, the pursuit of the bettering of your craft, right?
sure.
You know, that's in a nutshell. That's it, folks. Goodbye. I'll see you later. That's all I got. So if you want to get better, just keep playing. That's all my advice.
Started off.
And a late in the afternoon Americano. Hello.
Yeah, I was hoping that's Americano.
There you go. Oh, it is. It could be a nice draft something, but no, you see the ice, the telltale ice.
Yeah,
Somebody told me a story once of being at a recording session. I was with Simon Phillips, actually, and he was friends with Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones. And Charlie and Keith, I guess, had come to visit the session, but Simon's in the producer's chair. He's at the control desk, and behind him he hears this little ice clinking. It was Keith with his little beverage. Yeah. Anyway, whenever I think of ice clinking, I think of Keith Richards standing behind me. How's it going, Randy? Hello, Randy.
Yeah. So tying into that first question, you know, when you were starting, how much practicing were you doing a day? You know,
It was really a matter of, you know, I just always wanted to play, and I was never, and still to this day, I'm not a good practicer. And what I mean by that is that I've never had a specific dedicated, here's my regimen, here's what I'm going to set out to do each and every day. I'm going to keep a notebook. And, I was never that organized guy. But what I did have was a, bottomless, endless infatuation with the guitar. And I just, such a love for it, just the look of it. I'd see it in my room, once I had an electric guitar, which I bought for $12.95 with my first paycheck from my first job. Right. I couldn't wait to pick it up. And I always wanted to have it in my hands, and then when the realization struck of, oh, this chord is the chord that I'm hearing on my record. And I realized, oh, maybe I could use what little knowledge I have and try to figure these things out. That got the ball rolling, because I didn't have a teacher till I was about 16. So with 3 older brothers around, they had the obligatory Silvertone acoustic guitars from Sears, that most families in the 60s and 70s seem to have in America, at least those around us. So it was around. And so there was just that general attraction to it. So, I mean, I couldn't begin to tell you, as far as how much I practiced or what I practiced, but I was always playing. And that's still what it is today. I call it practicing, but I'll get up first thing every day. And if it's what I love to do every day, I'll put like the iReal book on, or some kind of thing that I can play along with. And iReal book is for like studying jazz standards and stuff. And so something that challenges me harmonically, and something that just gets the technique going. And so I'll do that now. I'll do that like at least an hour every morning on good days. Obviously life takes you different directions sometimes, but also, maybe, and then my day may be mostly music related. I could be doing session work or working on my own stuff. But if I'm winding down at night, I'm really blessed with a son and a wife that don't mind me noodling around for watching TV or something. I don't know how they do it, because I would be immensely annoyed if somebody was sitting next to me while I'm trying to pay attention to something else, running scales or whatever. But I get away with it. It's weird, because it's okay if I'm doing it and I'm watching something, but if somebody else were to be doing that, I'd be too distracted. I have trouble with focus like that, unless it's me doing it. So I'll sit and I'll play if I might be working on a particular, excuse me. I'm not getting choked up. I've got little allergies here. If I might be working on a particular arpeggio or idea, or so I can kind of have my fingers going and somehow justify the fact that I'm watching Raising Hope, which is the most mindless, what a Hulu or Netflix or what. But it's good, because after a day of if you're paying attention at all to the world's events, you need something mindless to let's just shut all this off. So a little guitar noodling, perhaps an ice cream treat. I don't know. I don't ask for too much.
You're very lucky that your wife is cool with that. My girlfriend, who's a musician, she's a singer.
That's nice. Yeah.
And if I grab the guitar when we're doing anything other than playing music,
oh yeah,
put that thing down. No.
Well, I mean, we all need the attention that we need, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like I say, I trust me, I realize how blessed I am. I'm just waiting for the day like she's gonna go, could you just freaking stop with the lick? But 23 years in, we're okay. We're so far. She hasn't cracked yet, but there's still time. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I'll next interview, I'll let you know if we're still on good terms.
Don't worry, you've made it past the hump.
We did all right. We're bucking the trends. We're bucking the odds.
I'm just enamored, as I was saying before. We got with the wall of amps behind you. And I know the live streams and things like.
Sure.
Can you walk through that rig a little bit?
Yeah, well, a little bit. I mean, I do have it plugged in. Essentially, what you're hearing is you see the blue combo amp behind me. That's like one of the original prototypes of the Mesa Boogie Lone Star. That was the amp that I borrowed from Steve Mueller, who's a friend of mine nearby me here he's in Frisco and I'm in McKinney, Texas. Both are Dallas suburbs. Goes back to 2005, and he said, "We've got this new amp. I think you're gonna dig it." I was like, "Yeah." Oh, mate, was that you? Something dinged.
Yeah, it's mine.
Okay. Just fed back. It was a weird sound. It sounded like if I dinged, I would be lots of reverb and echo. But that amp I borrowed from Steve for a gig, that I had, and I never gave it back. That's still the same amp. I tried to give it back to him actually a year ago. I felt like he was like, "No, you should keep it." No, dude, this is a special amp that Randall Smith had sent to him personally. He loaned it to me. I was like, I'm not giving it. Anyway, it's a long story, but he graciously let me hold on to that. The amp over this shoulder, whatever that is to you. It's my left, you're right. That's the head that I'm plugged into, and that's the main sound. I'm usually running in stereo right now because I've only got a two channel Scarlett. I've got one of my amp cabs run into the Scarlett and the speaking mic, so I can have headphones on. You can hear me. Usually when I'm doing the stage gigs, I've got in the next room with isolation, I've got two Mesa Boogie 2x12 rectifier cabinets with 30-watt Celestions. So usually I've got a nice stereo sound. Right now I'm in glorious mono. Not a bad sound. And as I was saying earlier, I started doing these live streams right at the end. I think the first one I did was March 31st, and I've done almost 50 now.
Wow, congrats.
It was one of those things where it was obvious that all the tours were canceling. I had UK booked, and then I was going back and doing Europe. All that's fallen through, and I saw a buddy of mine on Facebook, a guy named Jarrett Reddick, that singer for the band called Bowling for Soup. Really, really cool, Dallas-based, just pop rock band. Really, really cool songs. But I saw him doing these. He was on Facebook promoting these stage gigs, like he was going to be on and request some tunes and I'll sing and play for you. And I checked out his gig. He's just him and an acoustic guitar with a microphone, looking into his iMac camera, like, wow, this is great. Why I'll try this. And he had been posting, 2 p.m., US, 8 p.m. UK. I thought, wow, he's doing 2 gigs a day. This is great. So I started booking. I did 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. I thought, well, the 2 p.m. it'll be for the UK folks and 8 p.m., nighttime for the domestic folks. Well, it turns out he was just advertising 1 gig. He was advertising because if it's 2 here, it's 8 there. But I naively went, oh, he's doing 2 gigs. That's what I'll do. And so I started doing 2 different shows every Saturday. But once I got that momentum going, even though it was a lot of work to try to pull that off, I was like, well, this is a good way to actually, I've got a gig, I'm making a little bit of money and the fans are happy. I'm enjoying playing for them. Why not keep it going? And so that's how, in this period of time, it's almost 50 gigs now. But the lights come from my son. He, what is this thing called? He's got an app and these lights. It's called the Hue System by Philips, right? And so he had this just in his bedroom for lighting effect. But the colors. Look, I got the blue. Okay, so app controlled, nice. Because I needed a little vibe. It was just these amps, which it's a good look with the amps. And I've got a black curtain up, which when I do all my videos for my, I have an instructional subscription site called guitarexperience.net. And so I needed some kind of consistent background. So nice few Mesa amps, good ad for my buddies. Yeah. And that's so that I just started that when I did the live streams, I'll just stand in front of that and put some lights up and let it hang. But I've got a buddy that's really tech savvy, Rob Wexler, who actually engineered and mixed most of my records. Was getting into doing live streams too. He's an electric violinist, so he gets all the tech together, then shows me how to do it. So first I was just going directly into stage it, which is okay, but there was a lot of compression and different things taking away from the sound quality. But he had this other platform called OBS, which you can put your video and audio into, and it's a much better quality that then uploads it to stage it. So once we start tweaking all the different lighting and audio things, it really sounds good and it looks pretty good. It's just me on camera. That's it could be better. Perhaps I could hire attractive models or something, but no, you're just me and my guitar. Sometimes I've been singing too. I've been doing some like acoustic singing gigs, like just doing a bunch of old Beatles and stuff, just tunes that I know.
That's awesome.
Mixing a lot of variety. I mean, obviously I've done 50 shows and it's a lot of the same people coming to every gig. So I try to make every one of them unique and take requests and do stuff I've never done and just try to keep it fun and fresh,
Yeah, man, I think it's super, intimate the way, like, you were smart. You got ahead of it. You pivoted.
Yeah.
Like, all of us have had to find ways to jump in here.
Sure.
Make all this stuff happen. So that's fantastic. It's funny you say Bowling for Soup. My son, he's a wrestling fan, and Bowling for Soup did a song for Alexa Bliss, who's like a wrestler.
Oh, right on.
So like he's running around singing that song all the time.
Awesome.
Like, yeah.
It's not a great band, man. Good hooks. Good tunes, man. I dig it.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk a second about your signature guitar. I've been blessed to talk to so many different musicians. We were talking to Billy Sheehan last week. He was talking about his bass. But your guitar seems the perfect modernization of the Super Strat. So what was the development of all of that?
Well, that was essentially it. What you can see of it here, and this is the original prototype that goes back to February of 1994. I had when I joined Danger, I actually got the audition for that gig through the artist relations guy for Kramer Guitars, Buddy Blaze, who I'd met here in the Dallas area through a mutual friend, and I was loyal and hung with Kramer as Danger started to do well. But then oddly, seemingly at their peak, Kramer went out of business, maybe 1990. So I searched, started looking for a guitar company to work with in a good position, because I was in a band that was, doing well on MTV. And of course, if you're getting that kind of exposure, then most companies would love to work with you, because, therefore their guitars would be getting that exposure too. But I really was looking at Ibanez because even though I was in kind of what would be called a hair band, I wanted to be more like Satriani and Vai and Paul Gilbert, and Reb Beach was an Ibanez guy at the time. So I was like, that's where I want to be. And fortunately, they wanted to work with me. But then it was a matter of, okay, well, we want to build you your ultimate guitar. What is it? I'm like, I have no idea. Something with 6 strings. I've been happy to, whatever I can get my hands on. I've never had that kind of flexibility. Kramer, I was just kind of using whatever they had, and that was fine. They were nice guitars. Sorry about that.
All right.
So we just went through this process, and I was trying a lot of their guitars, but nothing was really connecting. But there was this one guitar that Kramer had built for me that was like, I just wanted a guitar that looked like Eric Johnson's 54 Strat that he was so famous for playing on Avia Musicom. And he was such a hero for me at the time. And so Kramer had built this, like either out of Schecter or Warmoth parts, just a basic looking Strat. We tried to relic it up very, very crudely, throwing the body across the floor. It was kind of funny, really. But the neck of that guitar had just had a feel to it. It wasn't like a normal Strat, but it certainly was not an Ibanez neck. And just kind of more rounded and felt like a real vintage guitar. Didn't have any finish on it. I mean, I really fell in love with that. So I sent Ibanez that neck. I said, well, I would love something kind of super Stratty, exactly that. And this was it. This was the first try. Originally, it had a Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck pickup and 2 DiMarzio Cruisers, but that were both bridge pickups, I think. But now I've got a neck Cruiser, which has changed from the original. And this is now the custom AT1 humbucker that Steve Blucher designed for me. That was kind of what I would consider a tweak on the JB, the Seymour Duncan pickup. And but mainly stock ever since. I did add a coil tap for the humbucker to get a slightly more single coil tone out of the bridge pickup. But the thing that helps beef it up a bit too is this Goto Wilkinson bridge. So that's one thing. If you were to put a Strat, like a regular Fender licensed Strat style bridge, it would have a thinner, pingier tone, which is very defining in that authentic Fender sound. But this has got a beefier. It's Leo-esque in its origin, but is beefed up a bit. So it's just a bit more bold, for, of course, I don't have my lead sound out. We hit the magic button. I would have a hard time getting that tone with a straight up Strat guitar bridge, right? So that's what it is. In the locking tuners, I think these are also Goto tuners on there. And that's it. But again, a big part of the deal is that unfinished maple neck. I love the sound of rosewood. I love the sound of maple, but it's just something more intimate about the feel of maple to me, especially with no finish on it. It really just what I've gravitated towards, and I've dabbled in other things, but this has been my main one. And now there's another guitar that's I don't know if you can see it. It's over there. Yeah. That's it. Hello. That's it back there. That's the new ATZ 100, which is essentially this guitar, but in their new AZ line, which has the roasted maple neck. But actually, for the first time, the 3 single spaced cruisers. So they're actually humbuckers, so they're dead quiet. But it's got that single coil voice to it, because sometimes you want that bit of a more stratty thing. And I love that too. The video I did for Bohemian Rhapsody was with that guitar. Got a really, really nice, clean, chimey tone to it. I really love it.
those AZ guitars. I had a pink one for a bit here at the school, and roasted neck feels fantastic.
It feels cool, right? Yeah. So it's nice to get, because it's the one on my guitar is my profile, but in the roasted, maple. So yeah, I'm a fan.
For the bridge, is it just the block is thicker and that's what makes it have?
I think it's more about the saddle. It's just got it's just, I don't know, more metal or something. It's just there's more to it than the thinner, Fender style. I wish I could verbalize it better. I'm so sorry, but it's just a chunkier construction in general. I don't think the block is that much different. Though I asked Trev Olgeson about it, because this block is a different color than any other one. This is an early one, but he said they've always been made out of the same substance. But even tapping on it, this original one sounds different than when I tap on other ones. Like, if we're gonna go down that path, right? So I won't be changing the block on this one. Yeah,
it's the magic block.
The magic block. That's right.
Oh, well, carrying on with the signature stuff. So your pedal.
Hey, look at that. Yeah, that's what I'm playing through now. That's the AT Plus pedal, and that's just straight into the Mesa amp. So all that gain is that. So if I turn that off,
so the amp's on pretty clean.
That's the amp. That was the idea with the pedal. I wanted to be able to, if I can't have, my main rig, if I have that pedal, I can put that in front of almost any amp and get pretty close to my tone. Of course, I prefer it in that Lone Star, but I've been provided twins and stuff in backline sometimes, and I can get it happening.
Yeah, I think
it's handy to have.
I'm telling you, like I had I think I mentioned last time, I had a really big gig for New Year's Eve up in Vermont, and there's a backline, so we couldn't bring any of our regular.
Right. Oh man,
I got to play 3 hours of music, all different. There's a big corporate ski resort sort of thing.
Right.
I'm like, how am I going to get my distortion tone? Because I use Triple Crown is my Mesa amp.
Oh yeah, right.
And I tried so many, I'm on Reverb, buying stuff, selling stuff, buying stuff, selling stuff. Me through a Deluxe was the backline. Was everything I needed. So
great. Well, I'm so glad it worked out for you. But yeah, those are challenging gigs, But that's where we learn, man. That's how we learn how to adapt.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's killer. I think it's so cool, as guitar players growing up, we read all the magazines and we're studying all the gear, and now with the internet you can watch all the reviews. But to be someone I got my own guitar, I got my own pedal, these things, it's like living the dream.
That's crazy.
Unfathomable almost.
No, it is, because I couldn't have imagined any of this as a kid growing up in Indiana. It just, it just seemed like winning the lottery, even just to be in a band on a label or whatever the fantasy was. I didn't consider any of that as even a possibility, but I just kept pursuing. The dream was to just be a good player, and to somehow be working. I when I started reading Guitar Player magazine, whenever that was in my teens, and I'd see the articles about Lukather and Tedesco and Carlton of being session guys. That's when the light bulb went off of like, well, maybe that's something that you could make a living at, and you're not having to, try to take part in this. This far-fetched idea of being a superstar in a band, right? So I'm very thankful that I started, and that's when I found a local teacher. That's when I found Ron Pritchett in Evansville, Indiana, and he started teaching me basic reading, but was a jazz guy, and so he started teaching me a bit about jazz, and then I continued after I graduated high school. To make mom happy, I stayed in school, and there was the local college offered classical guitar as a major, and I thought, I know nothing about it. I love the sound, but let me see if I can get, I auditioned on a bolt-on neck Ibanez Les Paul Electra. It was the same company that made them in Japan, but bastardized a version of Mood for a Day by Steve Howe. Got me into the classical department, but and it just kept going, and then went to Miami for a couple of years and learned, was in the jazz department down there. So even though I ended up, getting some experience in the bigger league, so to speak, as far as major label, and now doing what I'm doing somehow, that have a career that keeps going. It was just that ongoing pursuit of bettering myself as a player and as an overall musician, that, you know, I never had a specific plan, but somehow along the way, because of that pursuit and everybody that you meet along the way, and if they recognize not only your abilities, but your work ethic, your person, you know, how you are to get along with, you know, all that adds up, and has, again, through those travels and those studies, has provided me a career somehow that I could never have planned any of this. There's no way. I mean, I would have dared to dream it. And it's for you to even put it in perspective like that is humbling and sobering to me in a way too, because sometimes I'm in the middle of it and not recognizing, oh, you know, but I never take it for granted. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I realize that, you know, I'm fortunate that anybody cares to hear me play. Right. That's as basic as I can put it. You know, I'm just so deeply thankful for that. So, but it makes me work even harder, because like I talked about earlier on, about, you don't want to disappoint, you know, whatever fans that I have, or people that might be hearing me for the first time, or, you know, you want to keep that going, even though, you know, sometimes you don't feel you deserve it. If I'm speaking, you know, honestly, everybody has their self-doubt and their insecurities. And I really do find the more great players that I'm around, and I've shared the stage with so many greats out there, that I recognize the similar trait. You know, all of us are like, oh man, I don't want to follow that guy, you know, or whatever it might be. You know, that doesn't go away either. I mean, even your biggest heroes, they all have their own things too that they're considering and they're insecure about. So, you know, it's just, even though, yeah, I might be in the middle of something that I could never have imagined, it doesn't change that same drive and that same desire to be better, and definitely not feeling that I'm good enough. And that I don't think that'll ever change. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to be self-deprecating to a detriment, though. You got to be careful not to be too dark on yourself. But sometimes you do. Sometimes you are, you know. It always seems like, you know, like you have the worst gig in your mind. It's the worst gig ever. And people are like, man, that was awesome, man. Wait. Or you could have a great gig and people are like, yeah, it was okay. So your perception is never what somebody else is, you know. It's all that built in, or whatever our expectations of ourselves, right?
Yeah, 100%. So obviously many cool gigs along the way, as you said, shared the stage with many greats. Do you have any awesome stories?
Oh man, well, just we'd have to
best experiences, or
I mean, there's so many great ones. I mean, God, I don't even know where to start with that. One of my favorites, and it's actually on YouTube somewhere, or at least it was at the time, when I've been fortunate, you know, at different times in my life to have crossed paths with both Eric Johnson and Mike Stern. And I played with Eric once, you know, kind of goes back to the 2000s. I don't remember what year, but he invited me to sit in at a gig, which was a big honor for me because I've been such a fan of his for so long. And I'd played with Mike Stern a few times, just at a music camp once years ago when we first met. And then we've gotten to be friends, and I played with him at his apartment a few times, and he's another hero, such a big influence. Well, they toured together for a while. If you remember, they did a record called Electric and Eclectic, I think, something like that. Some play on eclectic and electric. And they came to do a show at the Granada Theater in Dallas. And I just went to visit, you know, I just went to, you know, to go say hi. And I was visiting with both of them before the show. And Mike said, you know, I do my Mike Stern impression. Hey man, you want to play? You want to play a tune? You know, I'm like, are you kidding? I just happen to have my guitar right over here. You know, I just, you know, you never want to be unprepared in case the moment, you know. So he invites me to, you know, well, we'll do Red House. Okay, we'll do Red House at the end of the night. I'm like freaking out because just hearing those two guys, those two iconic players and tones at the same time was overwhelming. It was just incredible. And so we get on stage, and Mike talks to Anton Fig, the drummer, but he's playing a different group. This is clearly not Red House. And then Mike comes over to me and says, "Hey man, do you know Jean-Pierre?" So Jean-Pierre was the tune that he, you know, an early song he did with Miles Davis when Miles Davis did his comeback record called Man with the Horn back in 1982. They did a performance on Saturday Night Live, and it was a song called Jean-Pierre. And I saw that performance, and it changed my life, because here was this scraggly looking hippie waving all around, playing. He was playing a 70s Strat at the time. Stern was, before he got that iconic telly. And it's like, oh man, what's this guy gonna? I didn't even know who Miles Davis was. It's the guy with the big cheeks. I didn't know. Of course, it's Dizzy Gillespie, but he started playing, and it was this Hendrix tone, but it was this vocabulary that I was hearing from my guitar teacher, and from the bebop stuff, Charlie Parker, Oscar Peterson, Barney Kessel, Joe Pass, coming out of this crazy Strat, and it would just the light bulb went off. And so he says, "Hey, do you know Jean-Pierre?" And I'm standing on stage with my heroes, and you see me almost fall over. I'm like, are you like, I couldn't believe it was happening. And it was a good hang. I mean, it was Bill Webb, who's Eric's amp tech, brought out a modified twin, but I had my AT pedal and a timeline, and I had my sound, So I don't remember what the YouTube video sounds like. I mean, sometimes I can't listen to myself, but I did watch it to see that moment, and it's me about to fall over with disbelief that I'm going to play this song. That's when I witnessed Mike Stern's genius for the first time. Jeez, incredible.
Unreal.
So I mean, we could be here for hours with stories like this. The most recent one, I just did a guitar camp with the amazing Andy Wood. Invited me to be a part of his woodshed experience, and this was the first thing any of us had done, in the era of COVID, right? So we all went in very cautious and masking and all that, but we did get to play a concert together, and it was Andy, Joe Bonamassa, Brent Mason, Andy Wood. I mean, Andy Wood, I mentioned, Mark Lettieri, and Greg Koch.
Oh yeah.
So talk about, there's 6 relatively good guitar players. Myself not included. It's like it's not going to get a whole lot better, right? As far as what each guy does and how they do it. So, and that's just one of those things where you're just going, I'm so happy to have been invited to this, but man, hearing each one of these guys. When Brent Mason was on doing a tune of his own, I went and stood out in front of him in the crowd, and he brought a 65 blackface twin, and it wasn't that loud, and it was just one of the most beautiful, even tone, just the way he plays his finger style. Chicken Picking was so great. Mark Lettieri is a friend of mine from here in Fort Worth and sounds amazing. Greg Koch is out of his mind, brilliant with his playing and his humor. Andy Wood, there's not a better all around player as far as his technical ability and just bridging all the styles. But then standing next to Joe Bonamassa. Now, I hadn't seen Joe live. I'm familiar with his playing. I know how he's a great player, great singer.
What crazy guitar did he pull out?
He brought a 59 Les Paul, one of. Yeah. So he showed up with he had a 59, because we were in Tennessee, halfway between Nashville and Knoxville, in a little place called Crossville. So Joe just drove down with his tech, and he had that 59 Les Paul, and he had a Dumble combo and a 58 twin. That 58 twin set up directly behind the Dumble combo. So I guess kind of muffle the sound because he had them cranked. And it was, some of the best tone I'd ever heard, but also some of the best playing and the best music. It was just, everything that Joe did was just incredible. It's like, well, there's a guy that's been gigging, and that has dedicated his life to it. It really shone through the amount of, work that he's done. And a really good guy. And I was really, really happy to meet him and get to hear him live. Well, I won't miss a show. I mean, he's been through town a few times. It's like, oh, I've got stuff going on, But no, he was a thrill to hear. All those guys were Brent, every single one of them. So, I mean, on and on and on, man. There's just so many greats that somehow I've managed to.
That's quite a collection. I mean,
that's a good collection. But yeah, but there's been all the G3 gigs too with Joe and Steve and whoever the other third guy is. Every time they come through Dallas, they invite me to come play. So, Petrucci was once, and Kenny Wayne, and the first one with Eric, and so I'm again just never would have imagined any of this, and somehow I guess they must have a bit of respect for me that they wouldn't be inviting me out. So again, it's hard for me to be objective, but I'll keep trying, man.
I mean that's I had Mark Lettieri, who's been on this
oh man
as well. He was actually on a few weeks ago. Which I guess was shortly thereafter or right before that big gig happened.
Okay.
Stuff online.
Yeah.
I love his playing.
Oh, he's beautiful. Really, really great player.
He turned me on to like the funk kind of neo soul thing, because I grew up a metal guy.
Yeah.
seeing that, I was like, whoa, you can do that with a guitar, and it just
Hell yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, a wonderful player. We've actually just started writing a little bit together. We might see if we do a track or two. You know, yeah, we'll see.
Wow.
But yeah, I'd love to work because we've never, both of us don't usually work with other guitarists in the studio. In fact, when we were sitting here, in fact, he was in my studio just last week, and we were sitting there and we're actually writing together. Both of us were realizing, man, we haven't done this since like high school. Because, you know, when you're growing up, you're usually in a band with other guitar players. But then as you grow, you tend to be the guy, you know, at whatever point. So it was kind of cool to somebody would be down a path. Oh, that's cool. But try this. Oh, yeah. And so kind of letting our instincts influence the other, you know, and it was a really cool experience. So I hope we get more time to do that. He's really busy with his stuff, and me too, but it would be a lot of fun. I know I'd learn a lot because I love his playing.
That would be really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Something.
Uh-huh.
So through the course of your whole journey, you know, through Danger, and then the solo stuff and the artist gigs and everything along the way, how did, you know, that's a big question that a lot of aspiring musicians struggle with is, you know, in their minds, I'm a beginner, I'm, you know, in a detrimental way, but I'm nobody, all the way to I'm a rock star. And they don't seem to realize that there's phases along the way. And one, you could think it's the everything gig, but then that gig changes to a different gig. And it's, you know, the way I see it, as long as you're, you know, doing something you love and blessed to make a living off of it, that's a gift. But
that's a really tremendous way to look at it, actually. And there's been, you know, as many big gigs as I've done, I've still done and still will do, you know, things that are way less glamorous, you know, for way less money. But that's something that, you know, me and my buddy Mike Medina, who's a local bass player, is like, man, as long as I got an instrument in my hands, I'm happy. I'm playing, you know. And it's all those gigs that add up to what is your life, you know. And you never know, even if it's some cover band gig that doesn't seem like it's means a whole lot, treat it as if it's the most important gig you're ever going to do, because you never know who you're going to be heard by or meet. But it also further hones your, like I was referencing earlier about your work ethic and how much you care about, you know, not only your part of what's going on, but the overall good of the music. That's the stuff that shows up. And again, like there was the Axe Attack. Well, here's another name dropping gig. Was this 1993 Ibanez event called the Axe Attack, and it was Satriani and Vi, Alex Skolnick, Reb Beach, Paul Gilbert, Sean Lane, and me. And I was put together as part of the house band with Simon Phillips and Gerald Beasley from Weather Report to back up all the heavy hitter Ibanez guys that I just mentioned. And part of Simon's agreement, that was how I met Simon, was actually that show, right? Where then later did, you know, 3 or 4 records and multiple tours with. But it was Ibanez just kind of putting these 3 guys together to back up all the heavy hitters. So in the process, Simon was going to be able to do some of his fusion stuff. So I learned his fairly complicated fusion stuff. And then all the other guys' songs, when Satriani couldn't come in to rehearse, you know, well, I knew the song, you know, so I could play Joe's part. And so Simon recognized this. I played his songs well. I learned everybody else's. And so, you know, 4 years later, he needed a guitar player for a tour. Like, I know the guy. You know, but again, of course, I knew it was an important gig, and I treated it as it might have been the most important gig of my life. I was already in Danger, and had that success of whatever that is. But that's the stage I wanted to be on. I want to be, you know, recognized with those players that I respect so much, and that, you know, I feel like I could aspire to be on that level someday. And fortunately, Ibanez was nurturing that as well, and obviously, and then put me in that situation. So, but that was one of those moments where, but I would treat any other gig like that, even if it's just going to play a local whatever tunes I'm supposed to know. I'm going to come in. I'm going to have it wired.
Right.
Because again, the other players deserve that respect. You know, the music deserves that respect, and I just want to do well. So it's and again, through all the different types of music that I studied, I could do a funk gig, I could do a country gig, I could jazz gig, whatever it might be. Some I might do better than others, but man, it all adds up, and it's a guitar in your hands and it's more experience, take that gig, even if it scares you to death and you're not particularly good at that style. If you get the opportunity, just, man, put the pressure on yourself. That's how you learn. Yeah. And that, again, that for me personally, that diversification is what has added up to some kind of being able to make a living. It was never just one thing. It was all irons in the fire, man, whatever it took, and saying yes a lot,
I love that, because that validates kind of our mission statement here at the school is, music is not one thing, it's everything.
Amen.
Growing, I was very one-dimensional because that was just, no matter how hard my teacher tried, I just was on a straight line and that's where it was going to go. And that took me a long way. And then I had my son and I stopped touring and I joined a band and did my thing. And a bunch of my, touring rocker guys came to a gig and I'm on stage playing Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. A freaking blast. And getting paid well for it. And
they're probably making more money than those cats, right?
Yeah, 100%. And
well, yeah.
And that diversity, that's what we try to the students. You're going to come and you want to learn Metallica, but we're going to teach you jazz and we're going to teach you funk, teach you everything. And I think that's validating right there. So thank you.
And it's okay to have that one-dimensional passion. There's zero wrong with that. And that might be, for some people, that might be just fine. But you doing the thing where you were touring, we had your son, and I did the same thing when my son was born. I cut back quite a bit on touring, because you don't get that time back, right?
Yeah. When he was
but it is great. You can nurture what their main passion is, but give them some food, because that might just, like for me, when my first teacher, who I had no interest or desire to go in a jazzy direction, but boy, I loved it, man. It was a guitar,
right?
It just turned out that anything with a freaking guitar, I want to learn I want to do that. It's cool. It's a guitar. And then how do these guys know what notes to play? This is incredible. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's I don't know. It's just a thing of beauty, man. I want to participate in all of it,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to ask about Cry for You. That's my favorite one by you.
Right on. Thank you.
So you touched on it the last time in terms of like process, and maybe we could just kind of rehash that. What's happening? Is the solo? Is it one take? Is it pieced together? Because man,
the original. Well, okay. So the song was written. I had moved to New York when I joined Danger, which would have been early '89, maybe. I think that's when that record came out. And I was living in a small apartment with the lead singer, Ted Poley, in Hackensack, New Jersey. Doesn't it sound romantic, folks? Yeah. And so, I had a girlfriend that was still in Texas, and I was really missing her. So this is really sad little chord progression. Just had this, drum machine and some kind of recording device, a 4-track drum machine and a 4-track cassette, I guess. And so that's how, that's where the song, the origin of the song Emotion comes from. But the recording was, it was in between tours with Danger. If there was enough off time, I would go back to Texas, and I still have my band, with Mitch Marine on drums and Mike Dane on bass. And we were kind of recording material that I was writing along the way, because I'd formed the ATB before. That's the demo. Our first recordings is what got me the gig at Danger. So my idea was like, well, at some point I'm going to release my own solo instrumental record, whenever that is. So I'd go back and record these demos back in Dallas and spend more time on the rhythm tracks. And then at the end of most sessions, I'd blow down what I'd call a scratch track. Just have something to listen to. So the day that we recorded Cry for You, we also recorded a song called I Have No Idea, which was just a joke title that ended up staying in another third song that never got released, at a really nice recording studio called Dallas Sound Lab, where Stevie Ray had recorded some of his stuff, and state-of-the-art SSL board, great big drum room. It was a cool sounding room. So at the end of the day, I had my little Zoom direct box. I'd recorded, the basic tracks, and let me just throw down a solo. So what you hear is basically, it's one take, but I make a mistake right in the middle, and then the engineer punches me in, and we finish it, and that's it. I know this because for years I thought, oh yeah, that was one take at the end of the day. Then he'd produced this videotape one day. Said, well, I had a VHS running in the security camera in the control room that night, and I have you recording Cry for You. And there I was. I got this. It's a tube pickup Ibanez made 1991. It's black guitar with purple pickups. I still have it. And there I am. I'm playing the solo. It's just real grainy, black and white. But then I hit a bad note right in the middle of one of the sections, and he hit stop, rewinds 2 bars, punches back in. But there it was. It was pretty much the one take. And so the problem with once you listen with something for a while, it's called demo-itis. Like, oh, it's just a demo. But then you listen about 1,000 times because you're digging it, going, that sounds really good. Then it was a strange, and there's a handful of songs on Ear Ecstasy, my first CD, that are like that, where I'd recorded what I thought were demos, but I'd give tapes to people, and I gave a tape to Reb Beach one day. I said, yeah, these are just demos. And he listens to it and said, what are you talking about? This is your record. This sounds great. So it was like some stuff I didn't think I could replicate because I just played off the cuff and in the moment. And so some of the tones aren't, again, it's the zoom, and some people didn't notice it at the time, but now you might listen back, go, oh yeah, that's not the best tone. But at that point in my career, I think I was much more concerned about performance and vibe, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But now the more I matured, the more I decided to spend more time on really pursuing better sound and stuff. So trying to get the best of all worlds, of course, is the ultimate. But that's it. That is essentially one take. But if you discount the one minor rewind and punch in, then there's the live version that I think more people know the live version with Simon Phillips more than the studio record at this point. And that's clearly live. It's documented on video. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad you dig it.
It's just like, as I think instrumental music, it serves its purpose, but as a musician, we get off to that because it's just the music. There's not some
Sure.
just getting in the way of it. I think, there's a handful of instrumental, rock songs, shred songs
Yeah.
that transcend just, okay, shredding, for the sake of shredding. Like that,
Right.
you said the vibe, the emotion, it takes you on a journey and it lifts up at the end. And it's very musical at the same time as being, impressive. So yeah.
Well, that's certainly been a thread, I think, even though that was an earlier song for me. There's a thread through most of my records where, that is the ultimate concern for me, because I'm not going to out shred anybody. That's just, I don't have that kind of thing. But first and foremost, I'm just really wanting a good song. So, melody, something that takes you somewhere, regardless of the vibe. I want to take the listener on some kind of a journey with me, right? And yeah, there may be moments that call for, okay, this would be nice to have a bit of flash here, but sometimes there may be some songs I've done instrumentally that don't necessarily really have solos because I didn't think it needed it. Because if the song kind of spoke well on its own, I never feel the pressure like, well, I better put a solo in because the guitar players want to. I think that the ones that are coming with me, on most of my journey, realize, well, it's not all about that. It's there's some melody there, some good playing, and we'll get some tasty morsels of flash, Yeah. But I think I'm hoping that it makes more of a overall listening experience instead of just the wow factor, which is again, I wish I had more of the wow. Maybe I'd be playing more like that, but so yeah, I'm hoping that that's what people take away from some of my music,
Definitely. Yeah. I do.
All right. Well, all right.
All right. So for the end here, I'm going to do something brand new. You're the first one I'm doing.
Woo-hoo! I'm a guinea.
It's a rapid fire. I'm going to say this or that.
Oh, wow.
You just answer. You don't have to justify your answer. Just,
all right. I'll play.
Okay. Overdrive or distortion?
Distortion.
Reverb or delay?
Delay.
Chorus or phaser?
Ooh, chorus. That's a tough one, but chorus, yeah. Fender
or Gibson?
Ooh, Fender.
Strat or Tele?
Ooh, Strat.
Yeah, this is my short list. I don't want to go too deep because
that's okay. But those are good. But it's like well, either way, you're gonna be.
No wrong answer to any of that.
That's you should carry. You should go deeper on some of those.
I had to feel it out. Like I wanted.
It's okay. You could go Gaga, Madonna. I mean, really get into the, the deep stuff.
We had spoken before, so I figured you could. Awesome, dude. Well, that's what I got. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rob. Well, man, continued success to you. Keep it going, and
so much.
Yeah, keep spreading the music and helping those achieve their goals. You know, that's a good place to be.
Thanks, man. That's what I'm trying to do. So,
amen, brother.
Thank you. You stay safe out there.
Yeah, you too, man. We'll all keep living the safe life as safe as we can, being good to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well,
thank you, Rob.
Part 3 one day. All right.
That sounds great. Hey, man, I'll make my Americano. We'll get chatty.
All right, brother. Be well.
Thank you. You too, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.